Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics. We're ready to get started on our pink block. This is called the Frayed Sawtooth Star. I absolutely love this block. It is so, I love pink, so that's a start. But I just love the design of the block, and it's very simple. So let me break it down for you. Simply 4 patch in the corner, made out of strip piecing. We've done that before in the basic series, so we won't be covering that again. I'll show you some of the strip piecing we have here, but the process is, again, everything we've covered in the basic series. I'll be going over the flying geese block. I'll show you how to make that, or the flying geese section here. I'll show you how to do that the old-fashioned way, and then with the cool new ruler that we have here. I love this ruler. And then this portion is just squares and rectangles sewn together to make the center. This block is definitely built from the center out. You need to assemble this. You put your flying geese on the side, sew that together, your 4 patches with the flying geese, sew that together, and so on and so forth. And we'll just get a good look at the back of this. Notice how we spun the centers of our 4 patches here and in the 4 corners. Again, that helps the block lay nice and flat. We've covered that in the basic series. So just a reminder, all of those things are there. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm referring to right now, just go back to that series and we cover all that. I found a cool tool from Fons & Porter, the 1/4" seam markers. I'll be using those today as well. Just to show you again the strip piecing for in these corners, just you're sewing strips together. These are 2" strips, and so when you have those sewn together, you'll simply bring those to your square up, and you'll be cutting those to 2 inches and sewing these together in the 4 corners. Now, flying geese. Let me show you the old-fashioned way, the way that I didn't really know there was an option. In fact, let me put this out here. I went ahead and assembled those corners, spun my centers, and I put the center together. So I've got pieces right here. And of course, you need to have seams going opposite so that they nest beautifully. See that? So that part's together, but now what about these flying geese? Well, you've got a couple options here. I want you to know that all of the rulers that we're talking to you about are options. Don't feel like you have to get these in order to be able to do this block. That's not true. In fact, I'm going to show you the old-fashioned way. I guess the old-fashioned way is what I call it, without the ruler. And it works okay, but it's not nearly as accurate or fun as I think the Ultimate Flying Geese ruler is. So when our downloaded course will tell you what size to cut this to, if you do want to go ahead and do this I guess I keep calling it the old-fashioned way. Let's just get a quick look at, yep, so we're going to put that on this corner. We've drawn our line with our friction pen and any ruler you have, really, just a straight line. And you'll bring this to your sewing machine and you will sew on the line. So let me line that up just a little bit better. Sometimes when I start on a point like this, my machine sometimes makes that point kind of dive down. For that reason, I'll be using what's called a starter strip. We covered that in the first video series, the basic. This is nothing more than a piece of fabric folded over. I'm just going to start sewing and get this established. And then it just picks up, get lined up here. I kind of just keep things rolling. I don't know if that's ever happened to you where that kind of tip of the fabric kind of dives down and it can be a frayed mess and even ruin the fabric. But that, I don't use a starter strip every time, of course. That you see me, not do that every single time. But that's why I do it sometimes. At this point, what I like to do is go ahead and press that and press it to the outside. Now you can, and I do this when I make flying geese this way. I go ahead and I'm going to trim off that 1/4" seam allowance. That kind of bugs me. I want to reduce the bulk, and now I'm going to put this in the corner. and sew the other way. Let's do this again. Oh, see, I didn't use a starter strip, but oh, I'm okay this time. So let's set our seam and let's flip to the outside. And I want you to see something. See how that pink fabric is not lined up completely up above there? This really isn't very accurate. If I sew a true 1/4 inch seam and I sew this together, I'm probably going to clip the point of that flying geese section. And so for this reason, I think that's why the Ultimate Flying Geese Ruler and other Flying Geese Rulers were created, because a lot of quilters struggle with this, and obviously I did now as well. And if I didn't have this option, I would seam rip and try again. So I'm just going to trim this away so you can kind of see. If I take this now and try to measure this, I am not very accurate. You see how there's even a scoop here. If you are very good at this and you like this approach, keep doing it. Let me show you a cool ruler I love, and it makes flying geese absolutely accurate, fun, and you can make a variety of sizes with one ruler. We are looking for, let's look at our block again. We know that this is 3 by 6. So how to use the ruler is that the first thing you need to do is on the left side. While the ruler does come with instructions, what I love about this is if you lose the instructions, because they are on the ruler, don't worry. You will forever know how to use the ruler. So we'll be using size letter F, which finished size is 3 by 6, and it has a beautiful diagram showing you exactly. So I want you to take note here. Our goose is actually white, and the outer portions are pink. So let's grab our fabric. It tells us, the ruler tells us, in fact, you'll be able to see it better on here. The ruler tells us for a 3 by 6 of your fabric that is going to be your goose, you're going to cut that fabric to 7.5 inches. And for the fabric that is on the outer portion of your goose, you'll be cutting that to 9. So that's what this looks like. And I know it looks odd, but this is how this ruler functions, and it's fantastic. Now our goal, like, let me show you how we're lining this. I'll just show you this in stages because it's going to make it a lot simpler. We want to line this up so that diagonal goes all the way down here. Now you can grab your ruler. This is where I love to bring in this ruler. I'm going to lay this ruler tip to tip. If that's not where it belongs, I'm just going to gently, if that's not where that fabric belongs, I'm just going to gently move that until this whole thing lines up from that point to that point to that point to that point. And I'm off just a little bit slightly. Let's look at that now. So you just keep lining everything up. There we go. So once you have that lined up, we simply added some pins. Then, using our Fawns and Porter, love this ruler, you can just draw the line corner to corner. Again, this is just an option. Corner to corner and sew a 1/4 inch on either side of that. Or what you can do is lay this corner to corner, and I can visually see that's extending. I'm going to grab my friction pen and I'm going to draw. I know that I can sew on a drawn line. I sure hope I can draw on a sew on a drawn line. Harder to say than do. That is so great to have an actual line to sew on versus you draw a line down the middle and hope you're a 1/4 inch on the other side and hope you're a 1/4 inch on the other side. So for that reason, I really like this tool. Sometimes at quilt retreats, I stay up till all hours of the night sewing, and by the time it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I want to just sew on a line versus trying to always find that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you get the idea. Great tool, just an option. I love the accuracy of it and simplicity of it. Once we've drawn that, we will go ahead, of course, and cut on the middle from point to point. Then you'll have, in fact, let me just do that. Let's just do that part together so you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. And we are pressing toward the pink. So we're going to set our seam. I'm going to press toward the pink. I always want to make sure I'm flipping to the right side. Sometimes if I press, not iron press, from the back side and I don't check the front, I get a little tuck. We don't want that. That's a measurement. Maybe that's only a 32nd of an inch, but on a quilt that's pieced, it matters. So I'm going to also check from the front and press there. All right, and of course I do the same with the other. Once you have that, you will go ahead and go opposites, just like this, and line everything up, which we've done. Now, this is an unusual part of this process. So these are just lined up, stacked one right on top of each, corner to corner, and yes, they are offset. You see that? Doesn't feel right. Don't worry, I will take you there. Line them up so one is stacked exactly on top of the other. And once again, we've drawn the line. With our 1/4 inch seam, and now we'll go ahead and we're going to cut. Let's grab that ruler and take those away. The pen that I marked with is the friction pen. That's part of your basic Notions kit. You'll see me use that so many times. I think I use it in every single video. I love that line, if that line bugs me, I just heat it up and it's gone. Love that part. All right, let's look at the back of these here. So this is coming up. We're going to be working on these 4 corners right now. So I know this looks unusual. So at this point, we're not going to actually press anything. Now, this is part of your directions. It's going to feel weird to you. It felt weird to me when I started using this ruler, but it works out beautifully. So you've got your seam here and your seam here. You're going to simply snip. I'm going to use my Kai scissors and I'm going to snip in the gap of those two. In between there is probably about a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to snip just up to and shy of that seam allowance, right in the middle. Just going to do a little snip. Okay, you might be saying, why did you just make that snip? That doesn't feel good. Watch what happens with the snip. Now it allows the seams to lie flat, which is important for your Flying Geese block. That seam will lie this way, and this seam will lie this way. And I'm going to check that from the front. Make sure I haven't taken a tuck anywhere. Yeah, when I read that instruction, I'm like, that doesn't seem right to me. But now it's totally logical. That way, those seams can lie good and flat, just like we talked about the importance of that. Seams don't get enough press. You just don't. All right. So of course we do the same thing with the other. Now here comes the ruler. I love this part. I want you to note that when I was getting ready to use this ruler, my first instinct is, well, my Flying Geese is pink. No, it is not. The goose part of this is white. So again, we said we're using F. We've established our fabrics. There's 2 parts of this I want to point out. Trim number 1, and then on the opposite is trim 2. We're just going to follow the sequence. We'll start with number 1. Remembering that, and I'm going to definitely use my spinning mat for this. I'm so glad I just remembered that. This ended up being so slick with my spinning mat. So let me grab that out here. You're going to see why here shortly. So it doesn't need to be lined up in any particular direction. We're going to go to trim 1. See how that's letter F? Letter F literally sits in right in this slot. I love this. This is going to give us 2 flying geese. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure I'm all squared up, trim here very carefully. I'm pressing down and rotating, and I'm going to trim through and set this to the side. If that happens right there, which sometimes it does because you're trying to be careful you don't cut into the next flying geese block, I'm going to rotate this all the way. Now I simply slide trim 2 into position till again it says F right in that slot. And do you see the white line, how it's lined up perfectly? There's my F, there's my delta, my V for my flying geese. I just love the accuracy of this. Maybe it's the pilot in me that loves all that accuracy, but I just think this is so slick. So we'll cut that, push and rotate, and put that, and look at that. That is a perfect flying geese portion of this block. I just think the accuracy of that, the fun of using it is absolutely what I'm all about. I love that. So that, of course, we would repeat that. In fact, let me repeat it again. It's this important that you see it, and I enjoy it. So I'm going to show it to you again, just because. And that way, if you're like, what did she just do? So let's go back. We'll start with trim 1 up. First off, understand what's my goose. My goose is white this time. I'm going with the letter F. I'm putting that into position. I'm very careful. Make sure everything's lined up beautifully. I trim, turn again, slide trim 2 is now up here, slide down. I've got 3 things I get to check. Left side, I get to check the bottom side, and there's my F is in that slot, that little seat, I guess I would call it, and then we'll turn and rotate. Fantastic. So let's get these rulers out of the way. We'll bring our flannel design board again. Boy, I love these. These are the coolest thing. That way I can assemble everything. And if I made a mistake, I'm going to see it. This is where I'm going to see it. I'm going to notice it. And then we made 2 more of these. That all comes together. And of course, these haven't been sewn together. That's why it doesn't lock. This is assembled and these parts aren't. That's why it doesn't lock in beautifully, but you get the idea. This is how it all comes together. And then you'll simply sew this row. We assembled our center, attaching our sides, attaching our bottom. I'll show you the back of the block. So on these rows, we're pressing away from the pink, toward the center, and away from the pink, and then pressing our seams open in the back with the union of the top, middle, and bottom. So that's all there is to making this block. Can't wait to see you for the next one.